The ancient moon of Kepler 789 wasn't supposed to harbor any life. Dr. Maya Chen had spent 6 months obtaining the permits to study its mysterious ruins alone, precisely because all scans showed it was completely devoid of biological signatures. Yet here she was, staring at something that defied every sensor reading and preliminary survey. In the shadows of a crystalline arch, barely visible in her headlamp's beam, cowered a tiny humanoid figure, no more than 6 inches tall, with iridescent violet skin and delicate, almost translucent wings folded tightly against its back. Maya's archaeologist training warred with her human instincts, observe without interfering versus help an obviously injured being. The decision was made for her when the tiny creature tried to flee, stumbled, and let out a cry of pain that was heartbreakingly recognizable despite its high pitch. Maya immediately switched her headlamp to its dimmest setting and slowly knelt down, keeping her movements deliberate and gentle. "It's okay," she said softly, knowing her translator implant would convert her words into any known language. "I won't hurt you. I'm a scientist, a researcher. Are you injured?" The tiny being pressed itself further into the shadow of the arch, its large, multifaceted eyes reflecting Maya's light like diamonds. "Please," it spoke, the translator rendering a feminine voice. "Our legends say your kind consumes other species to gain their knowledge. I don't want to die." Maya couldn't help but let out a small laugh, though she immediately regretted it when the creature flinched. "I'm sorry. It's just, we have similar legends about alien species. I promise you, humans don't eat other sentient beings. We're researchers, explorers. I'm here to study these ruins, not harm anyone. My name is Maya Chen. Can you tell me yours?" There was a long pause, filled only with the soft hum of Maya's environment suit and the distant whisper of the moon's thin atmosphere outside the ruins. Finally, the tiny alien shifted slightly, her wings relaxing fractionally. "I am Zixta, last keeper of the memory crystal of the Lumini. Or, I was, until the scavengers came." Maya's scientific interest peaked at the mention of a memory crystal. It could explain the unusual energy readings she'd been tracking, but her immediate concern was for Zixta's obvious injury. She could see now that one of the alien's legs was bent at an awkward angle. "You're hurt," Maya said, slowly reaching into her medical kit. "I have some universal healing gel that should be safe for most carbon-based life forms. Will you let me help you?" Zixta's wings quivered. "Why would you help me? Your species. You're so large, so powerful. The ruins of my people are probably nothing more than toys to you." Maya smiled gently, keeping her voice soft. "Size doesn't determine worth, Zixta. Every civilization, every being has value. These ruins," she gestured at the soaring crystalline arches around them. "They're beautiful, intricate, full of history. Just like you, they deserve to be protected and understood, not destroyed or consumed." To demonstrate her sincerity, Maya carefully set her medical kit on the ground and slid it toward Zixta, then backed away several steps. The tiny alien studied her for several long moments, her iridescent skin shifting through shades of violet and blue. Finally, she took a tentative step toward the kit. "Your words, they are not what I expected," Zixta admitted. "The scavengers who attacked our sanctuary spoke of humans as brutal giants who destroy everything they touch. But you?" She paused, her multifaceted eyes studying Maya intently. "You feel different." "There are good and bad among every species," Maya said. "I can't speak for all humans, but I can prove to you that this human wants to help. Will you trust me?" Zixta's wings suddenly flared out, catching Maya's headlamp light and scattering it in rainbow patterns across the ruins. The display was breathtaking, but Maya could see it was also causing the injured alien pain to maintain. Without thinking, she reached out to steady Zixta before she could fall. Instead of flinching away, Zixta grabbed onto Maya's finger with both of her tiny hands. The touch sent a slight tingling sensation up Maya's arm. some kind of bioelectric field, she noted absently. But what really struck her was the strength in that small grip. Despite her size, despite her injury, Zixta was far from helpless. Perhaps, Zixta said slowly, we could help each other. The memory crystal I guard. It contains the complete history of my people, including the true purpose of these ruins. If you will help me protect it from the scavengers, I will share its knowledge with you. Maya felt a smile spread across her face. This was why she had become an archaeologist, not just to study the past, but to learn from it, to build bridges between cultures. I'd be honored, she said. But first, let's take care of that leg. As she carefully began applying the healing gel to Zixta's injury, Maya couldn't help but marvel at how quickly everything had changed. She had come to this moon seeking ancient history, but instead she had found something far more valuable. A chance to prove that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its size or technology, but in its capacity for compassion and understanding. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of an adventure that would challenge everything both human and Lumini thought they knew about each other. The interior of Maya's research base wasn't designed for beings Zixta's size, but the tiny Lumini had proven remarkably adaptable. Using her wings and what Maya now recognized as natural gravitic manipulation abilities, she could easily navigate the human-scaled environment. Currently, she was perched on the edge of Maya's holo-display, her injured leg nearly healed thanks to the medical gel, watching the archaeologist catalog their findings. Your written language, Zixta observed, gesturing at Maya's notes. It's so linear. The memory crystal stores information in patterns of light and emotion. How do you convey complex concepts with such simple symbols? Maya paused her work, fascinated by these glimpses into Lumini culture. We layer meaning through context and combination. Like how these ruins combine crystalline structures to create something greater than their individual parts. Zixta's wings shimmered with what Maya was learning to recognize as approval. Perhaps our peoples aren't so different after all. Though I still don't understand why you live in such large spaces, all this empty air seems wasteful, says the one who's been doing aerial acrobatics through my lab for the past hour. Maya teased gently. Their shared laughter felt like another small victory, another thread of trust being woven between them. The moment was interrupted by a proximity alert from the base's security system. Maya quickly checked the readings, her expression growing serious. 3 ships just entered orbit. No recognition codes, and their energy signatures match what you described of the scavengers. Zixta's iridescent skin paled to a worried lavender. They're persistent. The memory crystal's value to them. She hesitated, then flew to Maya's shoulder, her tiny hand resting against the human's neck. There's something I haven't told you. The crystal contains more than just our history. It holds the key to accessing the ancient network that connects all the ruins across this sector of space. Maya's mind raced with the implications. The ruins are connected. That would explain the similar architectural elements I've documented on other worlds. But why would these scavengers care about ancient ruins? Because they're not just ruins, Zixta explained, her voice tight with urgency. They're nodes in a vast transportation network, built by those we call the ancestors. The memory crystal contains the activation sequences, but only a Lumini can interpret them correctly. That's why the scavengers attacked our sanctuary. They want to use the network for rapid military deployment, to expand their territory without the limitations of conventional space travel. Maya stood, moving quickly to secure her equipment. And now they've tracked us here. We need to move the crystal somewhere safer. No. Zixta's voice carried surprising authority for her size. The crystal stays in the ruins. It's connected to them, drawing power from their matrix. Removing it would risk losing everything my people have preserved. She flew to hover in front of Maya's face, her wings creating tiny rainbows in the lab's light. But there might be another way. The ruins themselves have defenses, dormant for millennia. With your help, I might be able to reactivate them. My help? What could I possibly do that your people haven't already tried? Zixta's multifaceted eyes seemed to sparkle. Your size, which I once feared, is exactly what we need. The ruins were built for beings closer to your scale. My people adapted to live within them, becoming smaller over generations to better commune with the crystal's energies. But the primary control systems, they were designed for hands like yours. Maya thought of the massive crystalline panels she'd documented throughout the ruins, their surfaces covered in patterns she'd assumed were decorative. Those weren't just artistic designs, were they? They're control interfaces. Exactly. Zixta performed an excited loop in the air, but they require both physical interaction and the proper activation sequences, as safeguard the ancestors built in. Neither of our peoples could operate them alone, but together. The proximity alert sounded again. The scavenger ships were beginning their descent. Together, Maya said firmly, already gathering her gear. That's the key to a lot of things, isn't it? Not just ruins and crystals, but understanding. Trust. She held out her hand, and Zixta landed gracefully in her palm. My people have a saying. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Zixta's skin shifted to a deep, determined blue. The Lumini say, even the smallest light can illuminate the greatest darkness. She pointed toward the ruins visible through the base's viewport. Shall we prove both sayings true? As they prepared to make their stand against the approaching scavengers, Maya realized that what had begun as a simple archaeological study had evolved into something far more significant. In working to protect the crystal, she and Zixta were forging something new, a bridge between their peoples, proving that trust and cooperation could overcome any difference in size or species. The real test of that trust, however, was about to begin. The crystalline corridors of the ancient ruins echoed with the heavy footsteps of the scavenger search parties. Maya pressed herself against a wall, her environment suit's camouflage system adapting to match the translucent surfaces around her. Zixta perched inside the suit's collar, her natural bioluminescence dimmed to near darkness. 3 squads converging on the central chamber. Maya whispered, checking the motion tracker she'd reprogrammed to detect the unique energy signatures of scavenger tech. They're methodical, professional. Mercenaries, Zixta confirmed softly, her tiny hands gripping the fabric of Maya's collar. Hired by whoever wants control of the network. The crystal chamber is still 2 levels down. If they reach it before we activate the defenses. Maya felt Zixta shudder against her neck. They won't, she assured her tiny companion. But we need a distraction. She studied the ancient architecture around them, her archaeologist's mind racing. These crystal formations, they're not just decorative or structural, are they? They conduct energy. Zixta's wings fluttered with excitement. Yes, the entire complex is one giant circuit. That's how the defensive systems are powered. But without the activation sequences, we might not be able to activate the defenses yet. Maya interrupted, already pulling equipment from her pack. But we can still use the conductivity. Help me with these survey sensors. Understanding dawned in Zixta's multifaceted eyes. Working together, they quickly modified Maya's geological survey equipment, using Zixta's intimate knowledge of the ruins' crystal structures to tune the devices to the correct frequencies. The tiny Lumini's dexterous hands were perfect for adjusting the delicate internal components, while Maya handled the larger assembly. Ready? Maya asked, holding the modified sensor array against one of the main crystal veins running through the wall. Zixta nodded, placing her hands on the crystal surface. Her iridescent skin began to pulse with a soft light as she channeled her species' natural ability to interface with the ancient technology. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Energy coursed through the crystal matrices, creating cascading patterns of light and sound that rippled through the entire level. The scavengers' comm channels erupted with confused chatter, their organized search patterns dissolving into chaos. They think it's the defense systems activating, Zixta said with a trace of smugness. They're falling back to defensive positions, which gives us a clear path down. Maya grinned, already moving. Sometimes the best defense is making your enemy think you're about to attack. They descended through lesser-known passages, Zixta guiding them through shortcuts that only someone of her size would normally use. Maya had to admire the efficiency of it. The ruins were designed with multiple scales in mind, allowing different sizes of beings to navigate them in different ways. It wasn't about one size being better than another, but about how they could complement each other. Their progress was halted at a junction where a massive crystal door blocked their path. Main entrance to the lower levels, Zixta explained. It requires both physical activation and the correct resonance frequency to open. The scavengers have been trying to breach it for days. Maya examined the door's control panel, a complex array of crystalline shapes that seemed to shift and change as she watched. "Guide my hands," she said, holding her palm flat so Zixta could stand on it. "You know the sequences, I have the reach." Together, the tiny Lumini nodded, flying to hover near Maya's hand. "Follow my movements." The sequence is as much about rhythm and intent as it is about physical contact. What followed was an intricate dance of scales, Maya's fingers moving across the crystal surfaces, while Zixta's tiny form wove patterns in the air, her bioluminescence pulsing in time with the ruin's energy. The door responded with harmonious tones, its crystal structure realigning until it dissolved into pure light. "Beautiful," Maya breathed, understanding now why the Lumini had evolved to be small enough to dance with the light itself. Some technologies weren't meant to be forced or dominated, but rather worked with in harmony. Their triumph was short-lived. A shout from above announced that they'd been spotted. Energy weapons fire began to rain down, scoring the crystal walls around them. "Run," Zixta cried, but Maya was already moving. They burst through the light door just as it recrystallized behind them, sealing off their pursuers. But the sounds of weapons fire against the barrier made it clear their reprieve would be temporary. "The crystal chamber is just ahead," Zixta said, her voice tight with urgency. "But Maya, activating the defense systems, it will require more than just the correct sequences. It will need a true merging of our abilities, our ways of thinking. The kind of trust that most would say is impossible between beings so different." Maya finished, her voice gentle despite their dire situation. "I think we've already proved those people wrong, don't you?" Zixta's skin shifted to a warm gold color that Maya had never seen before. "Yes," the tiny Lumini said softly. "Yes, we have." The crystal chamber awaited them, its ancient secrets ready to be unlocked by the unlikeliest of partnerships. Behind them, the sound of the scavengers attempting to breach the door grew louder. The next few moments would determine not just their fate, but potentially the future of human-Lumini relations, and neither of them had any intention of failing. The crystal chamber was a cathedral of light. Crystalline spires rose from floor to ceiling, each one thrumming with barely contained energy. At the chamber's heart, suspended in a column of pure radiance, floated the memory crystal, no larger than Zixta herself, yet containing the accumulated knowledge of an entire civilization. The control interface, Zixta directed, pointing to a massive crystalline panel that dominated one wall. Its surface was covered in intricate patterns that shifted and flowed like liquid light. "Quickly, the door won't hold much longer." Maya approached the panel, feeling the energy emanating from it like static electricity against her skin. "What do we do?" "Place your hands on the main contact points," Zixta instructed, flying to hover near Maya's head. "I'll channel the activation sequences through our combined connection." "But Maya," she hesitated. "This level of interface, it's intimate. You'll see my memories, feel my people's experiences. And I'll see yours." The sounds of the scavengers attempting to breach the door grew louder. Maya met Zixta's multifaceted eyes. "I trust you." As Maya's hands made contact with the crystal surface, Zixta landed gently on her shoulder and pressed her tiny palms against Maya's neck. The connection was immediate and overwhelming. Images and sensations flooded Maya's mind. The world from Zixta's perspective, where humans were towering giants and every mode of light was alive with possibility. The tragedy of the Lumini Sanctuary's fall, the weight of responsibility as the last crystal keeper, but also joy, the dance of light through crystal, the harmony of minds linked in shared purpose, and most recently, the growing wonder of discovering that beings so different in size could share such similar hearts. In return, Maya shared her own memories. The thrill of discovery that led her to archaeology, the dedication to preserving and understanding the past, and the deep-seated human drive to reach out across the gulf between species and make connections. Their merged consciousness expanded into the ruined systems. The activation sequences flowed through them like a song, each note perfectly aligned with the ruin's crystalline structure. The defense systems responded with a symphony of light and energy. The chamber walls became transparent, revealing the scavengers who had finally breached the outer door. But before they could fire a shot, energy fields sprang up between the crystal pillars, creating an impenetrable barrier. More than that, the fields began to pulse with a resonance that caused the scavengers' weapons and technology to short out, rendering them harmless. It's not just a defense system, Maya realized, still connected to the ruins network through their shared link. It's a containment system. The ancestors built it to protect, not destroy. Yes, Zixta's thoughts merged with hers. They understood that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to preserve and protect. That's why the ruins require cooperation between different beings to activate. It's a test. Only those who can work together in harmony are trusted with their power. The scavengers, their technology neutralized and their plans thwarted, had little choice but to surrender. Maya used the ruins' communication systems to contact the nearest human outpost, while the containment fields held the mercenaries securely. Hours later, as human peacekeeping forces took the scavengers into custody, Maya and Zixta stood before the memory crystal, their shared experience having forged a bond deeper than either had imagined possible. What happens now? Maya asked softly. The crystal is safe, but your people are still scattered. Zixta's wings shimmered with purpose. Perhaps that's not entirely a bad thing. We hid ourselves away, believing we needed to protect our knowledge from those who would misuse it. But you've shown me there's another way. She flew up to meet Maya's eyes. The human authorities have offered to help establish a joint research facility here, haven't they? Maya nodded, with full diplomatic recognition for the Lumini and guarantees of your autonomy. But they're hoping that we'll share our knowledge of the ruins network. Zixta finished. We will, under proper supervision and with appropriate safeguards. But more importantly, we'll share understanding. Your people's size and strength, combined with our attunement to the crystal's energies, together we can ensure the ruins are preserved and their power used wisely. A partnership of equals. Maya smiled. Despite our differences. Because of our differences, Zixta corrected, landing on Maya's outstretched hand. Her tiny form radiated conviction. The ancestors built these ruins to bring peoples together, to prove that the greatest achievements come not from domination, but from harmony. It's time for their wisdom to guide a new era of cooperation. The memory crystal pulsed softly, as if in agreement. Its light caught Zixta's wings, creating a cascade of rainbow reflections throughout the chamber. To Maya, it looked like the future itself was dawning. A future where size and species were no barrier to understanding, where differences were celebrated rather than feared. The ruins would become a safe haven not just for the returning Lumini, but for all who sought to learn from the past and build a better future. And it had started here, with a human archaeologist and a tiny alien finding trust in the most unlikely of circumstances. 1 year after the confrontation in the crystal chamber, the ruins of Kepler 789 had transformed. What was once a silent monument to a forgotten past now hummed with life and purpose. The crystalline spires gleamed with renewed energy, their surfaces reflecting the activities of both humans and Lumini working in harmony. Maya stood at the observation deck of the newly established Joint Research Center, watching a group of tiny Lumini scholars dance through a beam of light while their human colleagues adjusted sensitive scanning equipment. The sight still filled her with wonder. Two species, so different in size and nature, yet perfectly complementing each other's abilities. Lost in thought, my friend. Zixta's familiar voice chimed as she alighted on Maya's shoulder. The tiny Lumini's wings had taken on a deeper iridescence over the past year, a sign of her elevated status as lead ambassador for human Lumini relations. Just appreciating how far we've come, Maya replied, gesturing to the scene below. When I first came here, I never imagined that you'd end up co-directing an interspecies research facility with someone who could fit in your pocket. Zixta teased, her skin shifting through amused patterns of color. Their shared laughter was interrupted by a soft chime from the communication crystal, a new innovation that merged human technology with Lumini crystal interfacing abilities. The holographic display showed a massive structure taking shape in orbit, the first of many planned gateway stations. The network test is scheduled for tomorrow, Zixta noted, her tiny form radiating both excitement and apprehension. Are your people ready? Maya smiled, remembering how much trust it had taken for the Lumini to share the secrets of the ancient transportation network. The engineering team has triple-checked everything. The combination of human structural engineering and Lumini energy manipulation is revolutionary. If this works. When this works, Zixta corrected firmly, it will change everything. Instant transportation between ruined sites across the galaxy, but with safeguards that require both our species to operate. True cooperation, not just convenience. The Gateway Station project was just one of many joint ventures that had sprung from their partnership. Throughout the ruins, human researchers worked alongside Lumini scholars, each bringing their unique perspectives and abilities to bear. The humans' physical capacity to handle larger equipment complemented the Lumini's natural ability to interface with the crystal technologies, while the size difference that once seemed an insurmountable barrier had proved to be an advantage, allowing exploration and study at multiple scales simultaneously. But perhaps most remarkable was how their collaboration had begun to influence both societies. Human architecture was starting to incorporate multi-scale design principles learned from the ruins, creating spaces that were truly accessible to beings of all sizes. Meanwhile, the Lumini were emerging from centuries of isolation, discovering that their small size didn't mean they had to hide from larger species. We received another diplomatic request today, Maya mentioned, bringing up the details on her datapad. The Centaurian Alliance is interested in establishing similar cooperation protocols. Apparently, news of our success has sparked quite the interest across the sector. Zixta's wings shimmered with pride. Good. The ancestors built these ruins as bridges between species, but even they couldn't have predicted this level of integration. She flew down to perch on the datapad, studying the request. Though I suspect we'll need to modify some of the protocols for tentacled species. Maya laughed, but there was a deeper truth in Zixta's words. Their partnership had evolved far beyond simple cooperation. It had become a model for how different species could work together, each contributing their unique strengths while respecting their differences. The observation deck's crystal walls suddenly pulsed with soft light, a notification that the day's final training session was about to begin. Below, new human recruits were gathering for their first lessons in crystal interface theory, while Lumini instructors prepared to teach them the delicate art of energy manipulation. Shall we? Zixta asked, hovering expectantly. Maya nodded, gathering her teaching materials. They had come so far from that first fearful encounter in the ruins, yet in many ways, they were still at the beginning. Every day brought new discoveries, new challenges, and new opportunities to prove that the greatest achievements come not from individual strength, but from the willingness to reach across boundaries and work together. As they made their way to the training chamber, Maya reflected on how a simple archaeological expedition had led to something far more precious than ancient artifacts. She had come seeking knowledge of the past, but had instead helped forge the future. A future where size truly didn't matter, where differences were celebrated rather than feared, and where the combined potential of humanity and Lumini was limitless. The memory crystal, still housed in its chamber of light, pulsed softly as they passed, its glow a reminder of the wisdom that had brought them together. That true strength lies not in domination, but in harmony, not in isolation, but in connection, and that sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest beginnings. Together, Human and Lumini had proved that the impossible was merely waiting for someone to try differently. And this was only the beginning.